Hello, and welcome to the Good Girls Get Rich podcast. My name is Karen Yankovich, and I'm your host. And today I want to talk about how we're using LinkedIn to book speaking engagements. You've heard me talk a lot about borrowing the stage, right? I love being on stages for a lot of reasons, but for the biggest reason is somebody is putting me in front of their audience, right? And it's just such a great way for me to market one to many without slogging through one connection at a time, right? So I want to tell you a little bit about a story from a year or two ago where it was actually a client of mine was speaking at a conference or was attending a conference. And I had never ever heard of the conference before. And I was looking through it. I was like, wow, they have a really interesting women's track here. I really like that. So it was a financial conference and I felt like it was going to be my exact audience. And it was a way for me to get in front of that audience that I would not have been able to get in front of otherwise. So, you know how this goes. You kind of look for the conference and you look at the speaker portal, like the form and submitting it. And, you kind of like wait to be picked by someone that doesn't know you exist. And you're not sure if they're paying or not. You're not sure if you have to fly there or stay in a hotel or what the deal is or where the locations are. But you want to build your speaking career. So it's just something that we do. And it's kind of like, I feel like it's a little bit like, throwing your resume into Indeed, right? Like we don't know how many applications they're getting. But what I do and what I teach is I want to find the human behind that. So they had on their website where the speaker portal was and the applications, the name of the person who was in charge of creating the speaker. So I'm actually going to move over to my LinkedIn account because I'm going to read you exactly what I did. So I found the woman's name and I was like, her name was Katie. Hi, Katie. I've been looking at your conferences and wow, I'd love to connect and chat about possible collaborations. That's it. That was literally at 9:07 a.m. And at 9:08 a.m., I got a message back from her that said, great to connect, Karen. Okay. So I waited an hour and I just said, same Katie, I looked at the work you're doing I love the work you're doing around women in fintech. And I know there's synergy. So many women aren't leveraging LinkedIn because they're worried about compliance and they're feeling it's not for them and they're losing so much opportunity. I'd love to see if there's an opportunity to get that message to your audience. Are there events coming up looking for speakers, virtual, in person, maybe we can do something custom. I'm open to all ideas in the New York City area. And I didn't hear from her. Whatever. That was whenever. So then I didn't hear back from her but I followed up, right? And I went back to her a couple months later and I said, and I saw that they were doing an event in New York City. So I said, hi, Katie, are you still looking for speakers for your fall event in New York City? And she replied, Karen, I am. Please email me topics you can cover. And she gave me her email. Many thanks, Katie. So of course I took that conversation to email and followed up. And here's the thing, and I'm going to be like a little honest and vulnerable here. I dropped the ball. I had a new team member at the time and I asked her to follow up and she didn't follow up. Then I saw that we didn't follow up. So by the time I followed up, she said to me, oh my gosh, Karen, we've already filled the conference. But stay in touch, whatever. So then like a day later, she responded to me and said, wait, I think I could put you on a panel. Would you be interested in that? And it was in New York City. It's like a 20-minute drive from me. I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. Right. So this was not me pitching into the wind, filling out a speaker portal, creating content that for an audience I don't know. This was me engaging and building a relationship with the person who books the stinking conference, right? And you saw how easy it was. She didn't know who I was. She saw my LinkedIn profile. I read to you exactly how this conversation went. You could create a conversation just like that. So I actually got to be a part of this panel. It was amazing. Not only did I get a lot of business from the actual attendees at the conference, but I did some partnerships with some of the other women that were on the panel, right? That's it. That's how simple this was. That's the whole thing. So let me show you a little bit how to do this. I want you to think about, remember, we're talking about using LinkedIn to get in front of audiences here, right? So on LinkedIn, what you need to do is find the human, right? Find the human. So if it's a conference, find the event name on LinkedIn, right? Go to the, maybe even go to the the people tab of the conference and see where, like, maybe there's somebody that has a title in charge of education, or like look to find titles: program director, content director, conference chair, curator, right? Track lead, right? Or maybe you'll get the name in the email of who posted the call for speakers. And you can take that email address and drop it into LinkedIn and see if the profile comes up, right? Maybe there was a recap last year. Look to see if maybe last year's conference had a conference hashtag. Who used the conference hashtag from the company or from the conference, right? Find the humans behind the conference. If it's a podcast, it's the host, right? If it's a corporate event, it's usually like maybe L&D or like the education lead. I wouldn't go to marketing. I would look to see who's talking about education. And don't take too long to do this, because if it takes too long, it might be an event that some of these events, it takes a couple of years to get on that stage, especially if it's a $20,000 or $30,000 keynote talk, right? So take a little bit of time. If you can't find it, like I use Asana, and then I'll put an Asana task in to follow up in a month, right? Because sometimes like you'll see last year's speaker call for speakers and this year's isn't up yet. So I'll just put a follow-up ticker in to follow up for a month, right? And I'll look and sometimes the people are different, right? So you kind of want to wait until you know who the people are going to be. I believe that speaker portal is kind of like the void, right? It's forms and, I don't know. I just feel like the people that get booked mostly didn't come through the form. Most of the biggest events I've talked at came from me talking at another event, and somebody said, "Hey, we've got an event coming up. Are you interested in this?" Right? It came from somebody who already knew my name. It comes from the relationships. So fill out the form 100% if you want to, but just understand that doing that 20 times is kind of posting into the void, as opposed to, of those 20 applications, find the people behind them and build actual relationships. Even if you say, "Hey, I just sent an application through." If you've done the work on the profile, if you have a great LinkedIn profile that positions you as if you're peers with the most influential people in the industry, you are already going to stand out from all of those applications they're getting, right? From all of those applications they're getting. So understand, like, give them, like, let's talk a little bit about what to say in that message. You'll see in that message, like, it was a little bit of flattery, right? Like I'm not really one about like fake flattery, but I was impressed with the conferences, right? And I just said, I'd love to chat and connect about possible collaborations. But then when we got to have a conversation, I gave her a real detail. You have a woman's track. I love that you're focusing on women in fintech. I think that women in fintech, and I know that a lot of times they have licenses. You're licensed to trade or whatever. And those licenses have compliance issues around your LinkedIn strategy. I know that because I work with a lot of these people. So I was able to say that's something specific and true that would make her say, "Huh," right? Like, so, and then saying, and I see you have an event in New York, like maybe we can do an easy intro to this and I can pop over there because that's an easy one for me, right? So 2 or 3 sentences, under a minute to write. Be as specific as you can with something that's true about that event and why it's important, why you would love to do it. And then do nothing. Then wait, okay? Then wait. And I'm not saying do nothing forever. Just don't follow, don't send your deck. Don't send another pitch. Don't send an outline of a talk that you do, right? But show up. Remember I said to you, I have like an Asana task for this. Sometimes my Asana task will be once I've done that, now my Asana task the next task I have for that specific conference that I want to speak at will be look for content to engage on. Right. So I'm not going back to the person and haunting them. I'm going to see if they post something and I can jump into that conversation. Or maybe the conference itself is posting something, or the company itself will post something, right? Keep your name in front of them. Comment on their stuff, but only when you have something to actually say, right? Be a person in their feed, and that just do this, every now and then, once a week, every other week, right? That's it. That's the whole maintenance plan. But understand that these conference organizers are drowning in pitches and they're starving for normal human beings, right? So stop thinking you're competing with the other speakers, because you're not competing with those other humans. When you send out an application, you're competing with their inbox, right? And you want to be somebody that you want to take it outside of that. You don't want to be sleazy or smarmy, but you want to build actual relationships, have actual conversations, right? And do this, like spend one day, spend some time on your AI tool of choice and look for some conferences that you think your ideal audiences will be in, stages you want to borrow, and look to see when the application, look to see, like, do some research, spend an hour, do some research on and find 10 organizers. Okay. And then you have, like, you've just created a pipeline for this, right? You've just created a pipeline for this, and do those steps that I just asked, right? Like, find something about the conference that intrigues you and say, I see that you're involved in this. Wow, it looks amazing. Maybe there's an opportunity to collaborate on it. And when I say collaborate, remember, I'm bringing value to their audience, right? They're not just doing me a favor by putting me on their stage. I'm bringing value to their audience. So it is a true collaboration, right? So stand in your power with that, and understand many people won't respond. Some of them might not even be active on LinkedIn, right? But if you send out 10 messages and you book one gig, it's still probably the best ROI you have in your marketing, right? And if you're saying real things and having actual conversations, it's not like, how, like, when you're having a sales conversation with somebody, like, and you're looking to try to close the sale, like, there's tactics to do that. Those tactics are true and real unless they're not, and you're making stuff up. As long as you're not making stuff up, you're not being manipulative. You're just having a conversation. And the truth of the matter is, they are going to be more likely to pick you if you are having a conversation with them than someone else. It's true, right? So if you need to have some of your stuff together. That's why we do a lot of the stuff in the Visibility Salon. We're doing this whole Bar the Stage initiative in the Visibility Salon, which is going to be there for replay. So when you join us, you can see it as well. But we help you build your speaker kit, right? Nobody was born with a speaker kit, right? And until somebody asks you for one, you don't know that you need it. But there's other things that they're going to ask you too, like some talk topics. What are some questions you want us to ask? Like, you want to have that stuff ready, right? So get ready. Like, get ready ahead of time so that you're not, but when they ask you these questions, you're ready for them. And it's easy to do this stuff. This is not hard to do. It's just you need to have a system and you need to have a process to do this. So this week, your move is to pick one event that you really, 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 really want to be on the stage, and find the human. Find the human, send the sentence, and then leave it below. If you want some help with this, I've got the entire Bar the Stage Masterclass that's completely free. If you go to sheslinkedup.com/masterclass, you'll get to watch it on demand. sheslinkedup.com/masterclass will get you there. The links are all in the show notes and in all the places. And borrow that stage. It's the fastest way to get in front of a lot of people, which is the fastest way to bring lots of money into your bank account. All right. So I'll see you at the table. Let me know how this goes, and I'll see you back here next week.